Okay, let's think about this. What if you wanted to really get your head around a major historical figure, say Barack Obama? Not just the headlines, but the whole story.
Right, like a deep, almost novel-length understanding.
Exactly. Well, today we're diving into something fascinating, the actual blueprint for doing just that. We've got this detailed outline for a huge 80,000-word series called The Legacy of Barack Obama: Hope, Change, and the Weight of History.
And what's really striking about this blueprint, this outline, is how it tries to take this mountain of information, everything about his life and presidency, and structure it, make it accessible.
Accessible but deep.
Yes. It's structured to give you, our listener, a kind of shortcut to being genuinely well-informed. It's not just facts. It shows how you might weave those facts into a bigger narrative.
So that's our mission today. We're going to unpack the key parts of this ambitious plan. We'll look at the segments it suggests and, maybe more interestingly, pull out some surprising insights based on how it proposes exploring Obama's life and legacy.
From the very beginning to, well, his lasting impact.
Yeah, we'll see just how comprehensive a look it maps out. Let's get into it. So to build that understanding, this blueprint says you have to start right at the beginning, the early years. A boy named Barry. It talks about his childhood, split between Hawaii, Indonesia. Focusing on those early struggles with identity, with race. What's interesting is why start there so prominently.
Well, that's a really key choice, isn't it? It tells you right away that the series intends to frame his story through the lens of identity and race. It's not just background, it's foundational to who he becomes.
Right. It's suggesting these are central themes.
Exactly. And then the outline moves logically into, from organizer to senator, the rise of a political star. So community organizing in Chicago, Harvard Law.
Important building block.
Crucial. And the blueprint specifically highlights his memoir, Dreams from My Father. It positions it as more than just a book. It's almost like a foundational text for his public narrative.
Okay. Establishing the story he tells about himself.
Precisely.
And then the blueprint points to the moment. The 2004 DNC speech. I mean, that line.
There's not a black America and a white America.
There's the United States of America. Everyone remembers that. This blueprint clearly marks it as the launch pad. So for you listening, you know that speech. But why does this blueprint make it this singular aha moment? What's the strategy there?
I think it suggests a deliberate focus, framing his rise around these moments of powerful communication, this unifying vision, maybe less about the policy details early on and more about establishing his voice.
Establishing who he is on that national stage.
Yeah, exactly. And that question, who is this guy, gets answered dramatically in the next suggested section. The 2008 campaign, Yes We Can.
Right.
The outline suggests digging into how he defied the odds, first against Hillary Clinton, then John McCain. It emphasizes the whole grassroots thing, social media.
Which was pretty new then on that scale.
Absolutely groundbreaking. And, of course, the sheer historical weight of him becoming the first black president. That's central.
But, gosh, the moment he gets in, January 20th, 2009, the blueprint immediately pivots. The very next section is the Obama presidency, crisis and change. And it dives straight into inheriting the Great Recession.
Hits the ground running into a firestorm.
Totally. And this bit, the way the blueprint outlines tackling the financial crisis, it's a great example of the kind of detail this whole series would aim for. It really tries to put you in the room.
It really does. The blueprint describes Inauguration Day, huge crowds, over 1 million people, all this electric energy. But behind the scenes, it uses the phrase pure panic.
Wow.
And it stresses the numbers, the economy losing, get this, 800,000 jobs a month.
800,000. It's hard to even picture.
It's staggering. The auto industry teetering on collapse. And apparently his team gets this report warning that without immediate drastic action, unemployment could hit 30%.
30?
Worse than the 1930s, worse than the Great Depression. That's the context.
So operating under that kind of intense pressure from day one, the blueprint really captures that emergency footing.
Yeah.
And it highlights the response, right? The $800 billion Recovery Act.
Yeah, the stimulus. A huge intervention infrastructure, tax cuts, green energy, all of it. And the blueprint notes it's credited with, stopping the freefall and actually leading to positive job growth by 2010.
Stopping the bleeding.
But it wasn't just the economy, was it? The blueprint points out this incredible multitasking under pressure, pushing this massive rescue package.
While also fighting for healthcare reform.
Exactly. And dealing with the rise of the Tea Party protests, intense opposition, and a GOP leadership that pretty openly stated their goal was to make him a one-term president.
Right. That's McConnell.
That's mentioned. So This level of detail in the blueprint, it's about showing the sheer intensity and the cross-currents he was navigating, not just the policy outcomes.
It really paints a picture. And you might think, okay, presidency, policy battles, done. But this blueprint goes further. It has a whole section called The Man Behind the Presidency.
Which is crucial, I think.
It seems so. It suggests looking at his family life, Michelle, Malia, Sasha, all under that intense spotlight, but also his sense of humor, his pop culture moments, like Between Two Ferns.
Hamilton, yeah. Things that showed a different side.
And it also points to the profound weight of racial symbolism during his time in office. The blueprint seems to argue you can't understand the presidency without understanding the person and the unique pressures on him as that person.
Absolutely. It's about the whole picture. And a part of that whole picture, any honest look has to include controversies and challenges.
Right. And the blueprint apparently tackles this head on.
It does. The outline lists things like drone strikes, NSA surveillance, criticisms from that angle, but also, importantly, criticisms from progressives.
So not just one side.
No. And it specifically mentions the GOP obstruction, McConnell's blockade again, and also cites the perspective from some black activists who felt maybe he didn't or couldn't do enough on certain issues, including critiques from multiple directions like that. It tells you something about the blueprint's aim for, well, complexity. It's acknowledging that legacies are messy, contested, even while they're happening.
That makes sense. It avoids a simple narrative. Then, looking beyond the presidency, the blueprint outlines the post-presidency, becoming a global icon.
Life after the White House.
Yeah, and it highlights some key things. That huge $65 million book deal for his memoir.
Wow.
The ongoing work of the Obama Foundation, mentoring leaders, his role in the 2020 election, his relationship with the Biden presidency. It really frames it not as retirement, but as a different kind of influence.
A continued presence on the world stage, yeah.
So after mapping all that out, early life, rise, presidency, post-presidency, the blueprint culminates with the big questions. Obama's legacy. What history will remember?
The million-dollar questions.
Right. The outline suggests tackling things like, did hope and change actually last? How did he fundamentally reshape the Democratic Party? And maybe the most provocative one it poses.
Would America elect another Obama today?
Yeah. That's a heavy question to end on. So, stepping back, looking at this whole blueprint we've just walked through, it really shows how incredibly layered understanding a presidential legacy is. Its personal journey, its policy, its political warfare, historical context.
And it's also about how the story is told, right? The choices made in constructing the narrative, like in this blueprint. Examining the structure itself gives you that extra layer of insight.
It goes way beyond just listing accomplishments or failures.
Exactly. This kind of detailed plan provides that depth, that context you miss in just, day-to-day headlines. It forces a more complete look at how these legacies aren't fixed. Things, they evolve, they get reevaluated.
Which leaves us and you, our listener, with something to chew on. How does that constant reevaluation, looking back at a leader like Obama through the lens of today's challenges, today's perspectives, how does that change how we understand their significance?
What does that weight of history really mean when the story itself keeps shifting?
A good question to ponder.